You know, America gets an A+, the West gets an A+ on loving what is good, but they get an F on hating what is evil. It's, oh, love people, and we want to plant churches, and it's all, yeah, positive. But there's not just the loosing, there is a binding aspect to the ministry. And the thing that gives you a passionate hatred for sin is knowing what the Bible says. The wages of sin is death. You have to hate what sin does to people. You don't hate sinners, but you hate sin. You don't preach against sin because you hate the people involved. You preach on it to be a holy alarm clock, to wake them up that what you're doing, everything that is done in secret will be laid bare in the open. Be sure your sin will find you out. And the wages of sin is death. There is a death to sin. If people do what God calls sin, it destroys them. It destroys their marriage. It destroys their children. It destroys cities. And as long as that doesn't bother you, you don't want to talk about it because of fear of what government opposition is going to do in your country, then you will never be used of God. It doesn't just say love what is good. It says hate what is evil. And when you keep the fire of God stirred up in you, it keeps a passionate hatred that you hate the filth of sin. You preach against it with a loving compassion for the person, but a revulsion in your gut against what the devil has brought to mankind. I'm going to show you, this is video number 2. This is me outside preaching in North Philadelphia. And when I preached this, one of the city leaders that was there leaned over to our crusade director and said, he doesn't have to say all this. The devil does not want preaching against sin. But I want to show you when I preach this with a crowd that's over 90% unchurched and unsaved. They didn't throw things at me. They were saying, you would think it was a Pentecostal crowd. People want to know the truth. And if you're too much of a wuss to tell them what's sin, they're going to go to hell, and they're going to look across at you, assuming you make heaven on the way over, and say, you never told me. You never told me this was sin. You never told me I can't live with my girlfriend. You never told me I can't drink and get drunk. You have to make up your mind that whatever consequence you have to put up with here on earth, there will never be anybody that can look across at me on Judgment Day and say, Jonathan never told me. They can say, I didn't like that he told me. But you tell them. How can they call on him whom they've never heard? How can they believe the gospel if you preach something other than the gospel?